Who is Aristophanes? By Anum Bokhari for Professor Majeske's Lit 305 class. Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about who is Aristophanes. Birth and background. There's actually very little known about this clever playwright, but he is one of the most inventive comic writers of his time. What we do know, though, is that he was born around 450 BC, and his father's name is Philippos, but we don't know much else about his family. And it's believed that he was born in Athens, Greece, since so many of his plays were written about Athens. Like any other Greek person, he grew up believing that there were Greek gods, and he dedicated many of his plays to the god Dionysus, the god of wine and drama. We saw this in Frogs. You can also guess that he lived a privileged life because the quality of his work showed that he had a high level of education, which only the wealthy could actually afford. He actually started his career at a young age of about 18, and he had 3 sons who would all follow in his father's footsteps and become comedians. He grew up in a difficult time, and although he was an excellent writer, he learned that his government kept switching between being a democracy versus an oligarchy. He also came around at the end of the golden age of Athens. The 2 greatest writers, Socrates and Euripides, actually died, and this fading of the golden age is what led to many of Aristophanes' plays. Let's move on to the effect on theater. Here's a picture of Aristophanes. Now, his effect on theater. In most of his plays, he used satire, which is basically using humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity, their vices, or to talk about what goes on in politics and other issues. Basically, we can say that this is a lot like Saturday Night Live. Aristophanes actually started writing in the period of Old Comedy, and he's one of the most important Old Comedy writers. Old Comedy used political and social satire. It had dances, songs, skits, a stand-up comedian to make fun of these issues, and a very important element was the fact that there's something called the chorus, which was a group of people chanting as the narrator, and they actually kind of broke the fourth wall by asking the audience questions directly. This was a very important feature to plays and Old Comedy. Another thing that sets it aside is that the characters are often gods or heroes. When Athens lost the Peloponnesian War, the Old Comedy era ended because the gods were no longer important, which brought forth New Comedy. It didn't use as much politics, but rather it talked about the average citizen's life instead to make comedies. And it no longer used the gods and heroes, but instead normal characters with normal lives, and the chorus was a lot less important. Aristophanes cleared the way for Middle and New Comedy to emerge. He's also a cunning writer who used witty dialogue, puns, and hilarious humor. He actually made up words when he couldn't find the right one to use. And here are some of his famous plays. This is actually a picture of a vase that had someone who painted the actor who played Dionysus in the Frogs. So one of the plays, Clouds, was written in 423 BC, and it criticizes the way people were educated in ancient Athens. It's basically making fun of Socrates. Birds was written in 414 BC, and it's a fantasy about this man named Piscatarius who is tired of seeing Athens go down, so he asks the bird to help him make a new city in the clouds that's between the heavens and the earth. Lysistrata was written in 413 BC, and it's one of his most famous plays because it's one of the few plays where a woman is the hero. Basically, Sparta has started war on Athens again, and everyone's basically tired of the war on both sides. So an Athenian woman decides that rather than waiting for the men to decide it all the women should go on strike, and they did. And the Spartan women saw this, and they did the same. By having all the women be on strike, the men stopped fighting, and there's peace made between Sparta and Athens. And then, of course, Frogs, which is written in 405 BC, which stars the god Dionysus, who is, once again, the god of drama and wine, and he decided to bring Euripides back because he felt the quality of Greek tragedies were not what they once were. But when he goes there, he learns what it really means to have good plays. And instead of bringing Euripides, he brings back Aeschylus, Euripides' teacher. And we see Dionysus change from the butt of the joke to who the god should be. Aristophanes actually wrote other plays as well. He actually wrote 40 plays, but of them, only 11 survived, meaning those are the only ones that are complete intact. The other 29 are actually in fragments that were torn up by time. In fact, the very first plays produced was The Banqueters, but that is only in fragments today. The other surviving plays are The Babylonians, Arcanians, Knights, Wasps, Peace, Women at the Thesmophonia, Women at the Escalesia, and Wealth. Aristophanes died soon after Wealth was made. The play Peace was basically about the Peloponnesian War going on and how Aristophanes ends the war in this play. One man decides to go up to Mount Olympus to ask the gods about it, but only Hermes is there and tells him that the god War is moving in to Mount Olympus, and that the god Peace was trapped in a cave. So the guy gathered people, they freed Peace, and he even joked that they would have come sooner, but the Ephesian assembly kept voting against it, which is another example of satire. He actually did not produce his own plays. In fact, he preferred just to write them and let someone else direct them. His death and legacy. Aristophanes died about 385 BC in Athens, Greece, and his plays survived are some of the only ones from his period of literature. What's great about them is that they depict the past. You can actually see what ancient Athens was like through his scripts because it talks about the politics and the social life that went on. He was also a great writer, and that opened up many styles of writing for other writers that came after him. In fact, he could help shape Roman comedy because of the way he wrote and the transitions that went from writing about the gods, including the chorus, to being about regular people. And he inspired a new generation because he helped introduce the middle and the new comedy. Here are my works cited. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you all learned something about Aristophanes. Have a wonderful day.